Hello again, everyone. My name is Mad Scorpion, and welcome to the Weapons of Festival of the Lost. Now, there is a few weapons that will be returning, and there will be one that will not be returning, and one that is trading out for it. But going through it, there is, of course, updating, and according to Light.gg, they already have the updated perk rolls off the API, so I'm going to be going through the varieties of rolls, basically describe what it has, and way things have changed for the better or possibly the worse. So, like I said right off the bat, we did lose one, and that is Braytech Werewolf. If you were excited for Braytech Werewolf like I was, unfortunately that is not being re-rolled, and it's possible it's not even coming back at all, because in the This Week in Destiny update, it was not involved in any of the weapon focusing engrams they are going to be bringing. So there's a chance that Braytech Werewolf is just flat out gone. But from that respect as well, there is another auto rifle that stayed, and that is the Horror Story, which if you note right here, it seems to be updated to be a stasis damage auto rifle, which is always nice because as much as it might not be a kinetic, air quotes, it can of course mesh a little bit better with stasis builds. Now, it was always a kind of solid enough auto rifle on its own. It is a vertical frame, or a precision frame, so it's pretty good on solid recoil. Don't need to hammer out as many recoil resistances, so you could probably get away with something like small bore or accurized hammer forge, maybe even full bore if you want to go full range. But to that respect as well, it has a pretty good set of perks for the variety of PvE and PvP. Now, some of the PvP perks, I would imagine people are picking something like Elemental Capacitor, Dynamic Sway Reduction, maybe even Enlightened Action. I'm not sure how well it performs. Possibly Discord, just because I'm not exactly sure how well that performs, and I literally have not used it on any of my guns, literally ever. But on that same note, in terms of PvP, things like Vorpal for anti-super, Frenzy in case of the in and out, Collective Action, always nice for an extra buff, plus Target Lock, that seems to be still the go-to for a lot of rapid-fire PvP-focused things. But in terms of PvE, Demolitionist, Envious Assassin, even Turnabout, or no, that's over, that's right. I forgot that was not Turnabout anymore. But Enlightened Action, Demolitionist, Envious Assassin, and practically anything in the right column. Headstone is always great. Collective Action is a nice little bump. Target Lock, always great. Cascade Point, it's weird seeing that on something that isn't a grenade launcher or a machine gun. And Frenzy, Vorpal, Adrenaline Junkie, Old Classics, always great for the damage fields. Now, you could probably go, honestly, any which way you want to. There's plenty of good options. And a Stasis Auto Rifle, obviously anti-barrier this season, so it comes with a few extra things. Plus, in terms of Crucible, at least, it has access to the Nadir set, which means that its sustained fire will increase accuracy and range, which is pretty much always going to be good in terms of Crucible. So, here's hoping this is actually the start of a new auto rifle meta. Sorry for the awkward cutoff, but to continue on, I just had a brief crash with the browser here that I have on my console, but pretty much the next weapon up is the Jurassic Green, which is a rapid-fire solar pulse rifle. With that, it means it is, of course, faster shooting, a little bit more limited range, harder to control than most pulse rifles, but at the same time, Arrowhead will always be great. Hammer Forge or Small Bore, probably just go-tos in terms of average barrel perks. Accurized, which actually, Accurized I would say because it lost High Cal this round, but man, you are really struggling today. But aside from that, it has a pretty healthy array of perks available. Now, starting in the left column, there is some great options on all places. Keep Away is probably a go-to. Heal Clip, in case you really wanted the emergency heals. Killing Wind, Perpetual Motion, Rangefinder. All of those, I would say, is great PvP options. And from the right, it's honestly just pick your poison, because Headseeker is a great passive perk for the PvP crowd. Encore plus something else like Perpetual Motion would be great, but getting the kill is, of course, the hardest part. Multi-kill clip for an extra damage, TTK help, Frenzy, Golden Tricord, Incandescent, all of them are good options for PvP. Pretty much probably the best one would be Headseeker if you just want consistency, but if you want the extra bit damage buff, I would go Frenzy or Multi-Kill Clip. But for the PvE crowd, there is options galore as well. Perpetual Motion for a little bit of a reload buff. Subsistence can give you, obviously, auto reload. Heal Clip for the emergency. Keep Away for just a consistent reload and range buff, as well as accuracy if you just keep things far. And then literally pick anything for the right side. With the exception of Encore or Headseeker, practically everything else is an option. Collective Action, Multi-Kill Clip, Frenzy, Golden Tricorn, Incandescent. All of these are good options. I would literally say, if you wanted to use a pulse rifle for something PvE, everything here is practically a good option. Plus, I'd like to see how Hill Clip and Incandescent, plus like healing nades and restoration, if anything in that in that field is actually good to double up on each other. But as well, it has the Search Party Origin trait, which is available on Origin Story as well, or Horror Story, I should have mentioned that. But basically, the weapon gains faster aim down sight speeds and movement speed when aiming down sights when no allies are near. Now, however, if you're solo, this doesn't proc, I don't think, but if you have a fire team and they're not close, you get a little bit of a buff. It's kind of like the old celerity. And then we also have the field-tested trait, which is always great. It's basically Frenzy, but more stat-wise with no damage buff, and it's still pretty solid. But aside from that, let's move on to the next one, which is Macabre, which, if you don't know what that is, it is a ARC aggressive frame sniper rifle that is from last year. Now, I'm not sure if there was anything to write home about with this one. It's still a sniper, so pretty much it only really lives in select PvE activities and PvP if it has the good stats, which it feels like most people are going for the rapid fire snipers nowadays if they're accurate enough, but peek that roll right there. That is pretty much the Crucible go-to. So like I said, it is aggressive frame, so it hits a little bit harder, but pretty much of everything, I would probably say as much handling as possible from your perk combos, add snapshot and opening shot. That's the only thing I can really say in my good grace for Crucible-wise. Auto-loading is good if you just wanted to make sure you always have it reloaded, but aside from that, nothing else really helps you in any way, especially with the way they've hit the ammo economy, so I wouldn't expect to have a lot of ammo anyways. But from that respect as well, in the right column, everything else, I would say for PvE, there is a few options, because obviously Vorpal Weapon, Adrenaline Junkie, High Impact Reserves. Granted, Volt Shot and Adrenaline Junkie are really based on you using a sniper for ad clearing, so I don't know how many people would do that, but pretty much anything on the left side, Autoloader, Triple Tap, Clown Cartridge, even Demolitionist. I would say if you wanted a sniper for damage, there's always a good option there. Although, I don't think this will surpass Succession anytime soon, so if you're looking for a new aggressive frame sniper, this will probably not be it, and I just recommend going after Succession more so. But with that, it is time to get into the new grenade launcher, a Cosmic GSP, which is a Void Rapid Fire Grenade Launcher. Now, there is no picture here. I'll be able to show you what it looks like in just a moment, but aside from that, its roles are few and far between for options, considering it has a lot of here and there that let it mix but not really excel. So of course you always have the proximity grenades if you want it for Crucible, and spike grenades if you want it for the just extra damage in PvE. But aside from that, left column, the only thing I could really vouch for is Quick Draw. I don't imagine Surplus is going to be really good, especially with how often people use their abilities. Impulse Amplifier, but then again, that's really just projectile velocity. You're not really reloading anything, so I mean, like I said, literally the only thing I can think of is Quick Draw for the Crucible crowd, and then maybe Cascade Point, maybe Wellspring, just because it gives you some extra energy. Maybe High Ground, because most people are in the air when they're using a grenade launcher anyway. It's like I said, Quick Draw is great, but then everything else is going to be really rough for a emergency whip-out grenade launcher. And I should specify, it's a heavy grenade launcher, not a special ammo grenade launcher before anyone gets into it. But from that same point, for the PvP, or the PvE side, excuse me, Impulse Amplifier, good. Clown Cartridge, good. Field Prep, good. Honestly, anything right side could be good. Repulsive Race if you're running a volatile build, or there's something. Cascade Point for a little extra damage. Explosive Light for a little extra damage. Well, I should say damage per second on Cascade Point. And just pure damage on Explosive Light. Collective Action if you want an easy, small damage buff. And of course, High Ground if you can coordinate it, just because that is a free damage buff, as long as you're shooting to things below you. But then, at the same point, Search Party, probably going to be not so great on it. Nadir Focus, even still, it's just projectile velocity for sustained fire. How often does that actually change your perspective when it comes to everything with a grenade launcher? And if you wanted to see how it looks like, they did show us in This Week at Destiny, and there you go. It's pretty bog standard looking grenade launcher with a few what looks to be stitched up hearts next to it. But aside from that, that is pretty much everything to do with the weapons of Festival of the Lost. Because, honestly, they got rid of Werewolf, which I think might have been a bad idea for a potentially way worse option. But I get they have to keep everything fresh. And between Horror Story and Werewolf, I think more people were using Horror Story. But with that, my name is Matt Scorpion, and I'll see you in the next video.